Good evening, I'm Anna Jabłońska. Welcome to Poland Daily. Today, Poland celebrated St. Nicholas Day in honor of the real Nicholas, who became a bishop at a young age and lent his hand to the poorest. On this special day, as a tradition, every child gets presents, while Polish schools are collecting toys, candies, and other things to help the children from the orphanage. The modern party, which aspired to be the newer, better version of the civic platform, was dismantled. The open question remains whether the dissolving of the modern party by the civic platform will strengthen the civic coalition or it will damage the project.
Yesterday, the Modern Party lost 6 deputies, removing the party as a parliamentary club. An additional deputy is needed for the party to return to said status. The party's existence is under question while talks with smaller clubs are ongoing. Politicians who decided to stay in the party shares concerns about the end of coalition.
Nie mam takiego wrażenia.
It is just an open invitation for all the deputies. If the Modern Party loses its identity solely due to the deputies leaving, then it means that the party never had a solid identity in the first place.
Na pewno nie. Na pewno nie.
Unofficially, Kamila Gasiuk-Pichowicz from the POKO Parliamentary Club is supposed to take the first place in the Civic Platform European Parliament's list, but when questioned about it today, she refused to give an answer. Today, the strategic decisions that strengthen the Civic Coalition are being made. The personal decisions about the European Parliament's list will be discussed in the future. The Modern Party deputies claim that there is no coalition because it has been dismantled. The actions that are being taken by Mrs. Gasiuk-Pichowicz destroy the coalition and it helps the Law and Justice Party. The Modern Party crisis began with the departure of its founder, Ryszard Petru, who is now the leader of the Now Party. We are sad about this situation because we were building this together. I'm so sorry for Mrs. Lubnauer because she was simply used by Schetyna and Gasiuk-Pichowicz. The Law and Justice Party politicians are not surprised by the Modern Party's situation. The Civic Platform's party speed contest to the European Parliament's list began. The Modern Party was supposed to be a newer, better version of the Civic Platform. The supposedly created coalition against the Law and Justice Party soon became the grounds for infighting within the opposition.
The district court in Gdańsk made the decision today that the former president, Lech Walesa, must make an official apology to Jarosław Kaczyński, chairman of the Law and Justice Party, for libel and defamation. Walesa must apologize to Kaczyński about his slanderous remarks on social media. The sentence by the court rules that Walesa has exceeded the limits of the freedom of expression in a political debate.
Chairman of the Law and Justice Party filed a libel and defamation lawsuit against former President Lech Walesa for accusations he made in social media blaming Jarosław Kaczyński for the fatal plane crash in Smolensk on April 10, 2010. Lech Walesa claimed that Jarosław Kaczyński called his brother, then President of Poland Lech Kaczyński, during the flight to Smolensk and ordered him to make a decision to land the airplane regardless of conditions. Lech Walesa had no evidence to support his claim. The court stated that the freedom of speech is not an absolute right. One of the lines one cannot cross is a good name and dignity of a person. The judge used the sentencing speech to remind all participants of the public debate that words should be used carefully and responsibly. The former president of Poland, Lech Walesa, has no arguments nor proof to make such claims he broadcasted, therefore offending the former Polish president Lech Kaczyński and accusing the leader of the Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, in an absolute scandalous and fraudulent way for this national tragedy is a travesty. If we have the court's verdict, it should be obeyed by. It is because we should show respect to the court regardless of the political litigation temperature. We are satisfied with this sentence. There was no basis to come up with such accusations like those expressed by Lech Walesa against Jarosław Kaczyński. We trust that Walesa will comply with that sentence.
George W. Bush, the 41st U.S. president, died last week in Texas at age 94. His remains were flown to Texas on Wednesday evening after a state funeral at Washington National Cathedral, attended by U.S. President Donald Trump, the 4 living former U.S. presidents, and foreign leaders.
George W. Bush bid farewell to his father, George Bush Sr., at the funeral ceremony, which began on Wednesday in Washington.
Last Friday, when I was told he had minutes to live, I called him. The guy answered the phone, said I think he can hear you, but he hadn't said anything for most of the day. I said, Dad, I love you, and you've been a wonderful father. And the last words he would ever say on earth were, "I love you too."
During the entire ceremony at the Washington National Cathedral, the son of the 41st president recalled the moments spent with his father and the lessons he gave him.
When the history books are written, they will say that George H.W. Bush was a great president of the United States, a diplomat of unmatched skill, a commander-in-chief of formidable accomplishment, and a gentleman who executed the duties of his office with dignity and honor, like faith and family.
The ceremony was attended by President Donald Trump and his wife, but also by the former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. During the funeral service, there were a lot of speeches in which some recalled the wonderful and honorable life of Bush Sr., but also the funny moments of his life.
And he was a man of such great humility. Those who travel the high road of humility in Washington, D.C. are not bothered by heavy traffic. And he had a very serious flaw, known by all close to it. He loved a good joke, the richer the better, and he'd throw his head back and give that great laugh, but he never, ever could remember a punchline. Humor is the universal solvent against the abrasive elements of life. That's what humor is. He never hated anyone. He knew what his mother and my mother always knew. Hatred corrodes the container it's carried in.
After President Mitterrand, Prime Minister Thatcher, and Chancellor Kohl had spoken, it was the turn of the Prime Minister of Iceland, who, as President Bush continued to write, went on and on and on and on, ending only when the Secretary General of NATO firmly decreed a coffee break. George put down his pen, walked over to me and said, "Brian, I've just learned the fundamental principle of international affairs." I said, "What's that, George?" He said, "The smaller the country, the longer the speech."
This year, George Bush Sr.'s wife, Barbara Bush, died. Their son, the 43rd President of the United States, George W. Bush, expressed with emotion the hope that his parents are now together again.
Well, Dad, we're going to remember you for exactly that and much more. And we're going to miss you. Your decency, sincerity, and kind soul will stay with us forever. So through our tears, let us know the blessings of knowing and loving you, a great and noble man, the best father a son or daughter could have. And in our grief, let us smile knowing that Dad is hugging Robin and holding Mom's hand again.
Today, the further funeral ceremonies took place in Texas. The coffin with the body of the 41st President of the United States was buried in the George Bush Sr. Library at College Station in Houston.
Thank you for watching Poland Daily. Coming up next, Poland Daily weather. Good night.